Good afternoon. This is Ryan Luca once again. This is week 5 of our Live to Thrive Virtual Connect series. So, the first 4 weeks, I trust provided some value to you. Just real quick in review, the first week we did just a review of what Impact Montana's role is as an organization. Second week, we got into self discipline, the road to thriving. Third week, we shared what functional health is, specifically through the lens of Impact Montana. And then last week, we talked about leveraging your service and thriving in community. And today, as we wrap up this 5 week series, we're going to get into the essential mindset, which is there are no dead ends. So, this is as mentioned, the culmination of our series, and the objective is for really today to tie everything together and articulate that no matter what your situation entails, there is always a path forward. And I can't express to you enough how often I've seen individuals come to Impact Montana just kind of at the end of the rope with what they felt like was no place to go. But the truth was they did have a place to go, which is why they ended up, um, contacting us. And so whether whether Impact Montana was the solution or not to whatever was ailing them, and oftentimes it's not, there is always another way to move forward. So that's what we're going to discuss today. And yeah, let's rock and roll. So I just did the reflection, but real quick to go through this. Ultimately, what we're talking about through this series is um, how to take ownership, right? First and foremost, self-discipline, how to take ownership, specifically leveraging functional health in order to optimize the system. And once we're doing that, recognizing the value that service and community come into play, right? With connection and purpose, being a part of something bigger than ourselves, hugely important when it comes to thriving, and then being transformational as a result of that ownership versus just transactional. And so, if we summarize these things, it's awareness leading to action, leading to ownership, leading to transformation, and ultimately thriving. That's the objective, right? It's in the Impact Montana mission statement. Uh, it's in our vision. We want individuals thriving despite your circumstances. You still have value to add despite your circumstances. So that mindset of there is no dead end is a key cog in this wheel. Again, core idea, there are no dead ends. There are pivots, there are lessons, there are redirections, there are stuck in the mud hard times, but there are no dead ends. Okay. Impact Montana strongly feels that with the help of community, with the help of peers, uh, that you can, in fact, get to that destination that you're trying to get to, but it may take means outside of yourself. But it starts with the mindset of there are no dead ends. And I don't want to discount the idea of feeling stuck or that feeling of being stuck. Um, but what this mindset does is it reframes being stuck into action. What do I do? What do I do next? What is my next move? So let's keep rolling. we'll keep rolling and really talk about why this matters. So, dead end thinking, which is a negative mindset, it's a fixed mindset. It leads to the places that are the most dangerous for humans to get to, right? It leads to hopelessness. It leads to disengagement. It leads to isolation. And we know how many vets, specifically in Montana, like to isolate, or how many isolate, I should say. And it also can lead to loss of purpose, which hopelessness, disengagement, isolation, and loss of purpose, I would say, are the most detrimental things that we can end up having as a part of our uh, mindset and where we're at. So we don't want to discount the struggle. We don't want to discount um, that these things can happen, but we do want to highlight the importance of flipping that switch and saying, I can take ownership of my circumstances. I can move forward. So, this particular mindset that includes these things is dangerous. I think everybody can recognize that. Um, and despite it being dangerous, it's not truthful. There is always something else to do. So, that's what I want everybody to walk away from today, whether it's, excuse me, for your own purpose and value or you as a peer helping somebody else. It's inevitable that we're going to run into individuals who have this, these things ingrained in their head or even in their soul, because this is really a soul challenge. We want to make sure that us as peers are providing the confidence to help somebody be able to move forward. So I do want to acknowledge the difficulty of this. There's a lot of circumstances that would lead us to believing these things. But the truth versus story will tell us that the situation that we're facing, the circumstances that we're in, are real. They're not a figment of our imagination. They're not anything other than real. It's the story. It's the outcome that we get to choose what that's going to look like. So the hardship is real, the situation is real, but the end result is what we get to decide ultimately is how that ultimately is going to end up looking. You control the meaning when we take ownership of those circumstances. So let's talk about transitions a little bit. Transitions can often feel like endings, but are really, in essence, the beginning of something, right? And that can include certainly a lot of discomfort, but without discomfort, there is no growth. So we want to recognize the value of discomfort. And as we are engaging in this mindset of, I can overcome these circumstances, we're going to be stretched, but we don't grow without being stretched. So, this is certainly applicable when we transition from military to civilian, or in first responders cases, going from first responder or law enforcement to being retired from service. It certainly includes our adjustment from injury and how we adapt to that, right? That could be a short term injury, or it could be long term injury that turns into a permanent adaptation. Loss leading to rebuilding, and certainly failure when we have this mindset, leads to growth. Very important to recognize the value of pivots and really transition. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the growth requiring friction. So without friction, there is no growth, right? The only way for us to build strength, and that could be strength in character, strength in our faith, strength in career, that requires resistance. Character building, I'd like to say, right? We don't build character without resistance. Challenges revealing capability. Our character ultimately is going to be revealed based on the challenges we've been facing or have faced relative to our adaptability in that, our ability to overcome. And oftentimes that increases our capability. If by nature we're not really good at adapting or facing adversity, we can increase our capabilities by facing more challenges. So the more we get tuned into overcoming hard things, the stronger our capability becomes. So a great example of that is really our young segment of society not having a lot of challenges to face, and really the limited resilience that they show, oftentimes because things are handed to them and they don't understand what challenges look like. And I would like to say that us as veterans or first responders, based on the challenges that we've faced, often reveal our character based on those experiences, but they also reveal our capability, right? A lot of vets or first responders really thrive based on challenges, and they're no big deal. But then there's a lot of us that don't really thrive from challenges, and that's when the negative mindset can come back to hurt us significantly. So, and then pressure creating clarity. I think that's a genetic trait. And there's some things that we could get into in regards to functional health here, which we'll avoid until later. But pressure can certainly be a good thing, and the clarity is oftentimes a result of that pressure. All right. So identity. Mindset often gets attached to identity. And that can often look like us being a byproduct of our circumstances, right? Or a byproduct of our diagnosis. So a lot of times we can attach victimhood to our circumstances, but in reality, despite being diagnosed with something or facing something, we are not that diagnosis when it comes to identity, nor are we the circumstances when it comes to that identity. It is with a growth mindset, or with the mindset of there are no dead ends, we then focus on the result of our circumstances, our ability to overcome our circumstances, our ability to overcome our diagnosis. So we are the response. We are the action that we've put behind what has happened to us. We are the direction of what has happened to us. And we are certainly the choices of what has happened to us. So when we get for example, we get diagnosed with something such as post-traumatic stress, we can decide that we are going to be a victim based on those circumstances or that based on that diagnosis, or we can take ownership and overcome and say, despite the diagnosis, despite the circumstances, I am going to navigate through this and be victorious versus being a victim. So that's the really the mindset shift, is going from or being a victim versus being a victor, so being victorious. That's certainly where Impact Montana promotes people to end up, is being victorious over our circumstances. In order for us to do that, perspective plays a significant role. It has tremendous power. And so the power of perspective really comes from some questions that we have to ask ourselves based on the circumstances, based on the diagnosis, based on whatever we're facing, which those questions are listed here. You can see those. What can I do with this? What situation is this specifically teaching me, and where can this lead? So perspective is our ability to slow down, evaluate a situation, introspectively consider what's happening and where we are in the midst of the equation, and ultimately where we're going to go. Perspective will drive our ability to create a strong mindset, and vice versa. Mindset can also generate some perspective. So it works hand in hand. We talked about transactional versus transformational a couple weeks ago with the functional health conversation. But this is tied to ownership. This is tied to that mindset, the shift to the growth mindset specifically. So the transactional mindset is, what do I get? Right? Versus transformational. Who am I becoming? What is the compound? What is the compound effect of what's happening today, tomorrow, the next day, over time? Who does that lead me to be? Versus, what do I get today? It's a pleasure versus purpose proposition. And when it comes to mindset, there's some practical tools that we can add to our toolbox, some ideas. And those ideas are actionable, right? There's intention, there's deliberate action, there's focus, there's things that we can do to help protect our mindset and help develop our mindset. And these are just some of those things. So we can pause. Oftentimes we have to slow down. We have to slow down. We have to meditate, maybe pray. We certainly have to slow down and evaluate what's happening. We have to reframe. So it's a matter of looking at the situation, thinking we might be stuck based on severe circumstances, and recognizing that despite the fact we're in difficult circumstances, we can in fact move out of them. We just need to identify our resources in order to do that. So take one action. What is that one action? Perhaps that's the identification of resources, right? Staying connected, other people, businesses, organizations, those might be the resources that we need to stay connected to. But we don't want to get to the place of isolation and thinking that we have to navigate whatever we're facing on our own. And then last, lean into purpose. So helping service members, vets, first responders, and their families define or redefine their purpose. That's the first part of our mission statement for Impact Montana. Leaning into that. What is that purpose? So purpose will help formulate perspective. Perspective will help formulate mindset. Purpose is an integral part of this equation that we cannot neglect. Without purpose, we don't have the mindset of there is no dead end. So incredibly important. And that's why Impact Montana emphasizes the importance of spiritual health and wellness, connection, purpose, meditation, prayer. All of those things are a part of spiritual health and wellness that we need to recognize as valuable, as a valuable part of our overall health and wellness model. So, role of community. We've talked a lot about community, right? Whether that's our service partner network, our peers in the program participant space, whatever that looks like. Community is an essential part of this equation. And when we're disconnected from community, that fuels stagnation, right? Versus community building momentum. When we're connected to others, we have the ability to build momentum. And we know we don't have to navigate alone, but oftentimes when we're in the midst of difficult circumstances, we think there's no way out other than to figure it out ourselves. But the value in community can come from shared experiences between our peers. It certainly comes from accountability. It comes from that connection and encouragement, right? Building people up versus being destructive. And then that perspective that we've already talked about. So what does the next chapter look like? Well, with the mindset of there is no dead end, there is certainly a next chapter, right? Despite the difficult circumstances someone might be facing. So the fact that your story is still being written with a no dead end mindset is a part of that next chapter. No matter what it is, with that mindset, the one we're aspiring to take hold in, there is not a dead end. There is a turning point, and it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, but there is a turning point in the future, and it will always it always has the ability to shift. And then it's all about opportunity management. Taking ownership of the future is the opportunity you have to identify what that is, recognize what the action steps that are a part of that equation are, and then moving forward in that opportunity. So coming to a close here. This is really if you're at that place where you feel like there is a dead end, here are some good action steps to consider. So figure out where you feel stuck, right? If you don't know where you feel stuck, we would encourage you to connect with somebody to help you figure out why you're stuck or where you feel stuck. And then reframe it. So rather than thinking you're stuck, reframe it into, I might be stuck now, but these are the things that I can do to get unstuck. Or I might be stuck now, but I recognize the value in being stuck because it's going to help me grow, right? It's stretching me, so I'm going to grow from it. And then take one action. What is that action? Create a SMART goal. Uh, Journal. Wake up every day for a month and journal where you're at on that particular day. Hunt the good stuff. Figure out what the good things are, and then formulate that mindset of there are no dead ends, right? So that's more than one action, but you get the point in that doing something that's positive will help with remedying the situation. And then share with someone. Man, accountability is so incredibly important. That's why we have our 90-day Live to Thrive challenge groups. That's why um, there's the health and wellness coaching, life coaching, right? Those are important cogs in this wheel to help somebody keep moving forward. So that's what Impact Montana is here to provide, and we feel like we do a pretty good job with it. So wrapping up, there are no dead ends, right? There's only new paths, new purposes, and new possibilities. And no matter where you're at this point in time, or no matter where your spouse is, no matter where your peers are, maybe it's a coworker. Um, Life is hard, man. We don't want to discount that. It's there's so many demands, so many pressures, so many things that are tugging at us. But the fact is, there are no dead ends. The only time there are dead ends is when we convince ourselves that there's no other place to go, and that's usually not a good thing. So to wrap it up, in closing, want to thank you for once again enduring to the end. I hope there was value. We hope there was value in these 5 weeks for you. We look forward to identifying what's next in this training space, the value that we can provide for our program community, our participant community. So on behalf of John Lewis, the executive director, again, I'm Ryan Luco. Happy to and honored to share this information with you, and we look forward to seeing you in the near future. Take care.